It was late when she came home. The door creaked as it opened, and I could hear the familiar sound of her footsteps echoing through the hallway. But tonight was different. There was no cheerful hey, love, or the usual chatter about her day. Just silence. Complete, deafening silence. I had been sitting on the couch, staring at the clock. It was past midnight, and she was late. I wasn't angry, just confused. She'd been working late a lot lately, but it wasn't like her to be so distant. There was always an excuse, a meeting, a deadline, a last-minute conference call. But tonight, there was something in the air, something I couldn't quite place. She walked into the living room, her eyes scanning the room as if she didn't even know what she was looking for. Her bag was slung carelessly over her shoulder, her shoes half off as she stepped through the doorway. She didn't even look at me. I sat up straight, watching her, waiting for some kind of explanation, but nothing came. She didn't acknowledge me at all. The clock ticked, the only sound in the room, as I tried to understand what had just happened. "Sarah?" My voice broke the silence, but she didn't respond. She slowly took off her coat and threw it over the chair, still not looking in my direction. My heart was pounding in my chest. I wanted to ask what was going on, why she was acting like this, but I couldn't. I felt like something was being held back, like a dam that was about to burst. After what felt like an eternity, she finally spoke, but the words didn't feel like hers. "Can we just not talk tonight?" she asked, her voice low, almost mechanical. I blinked, trying to understand what she meant. This wasn't like her. She always wanted to talk, always wanted to share her day, her thoughts, her feelings. But tonight, she was shutting me out. Completely. I couldn't explain it, but something about the way she said it, the emptiness in her tone, the coldness in her eyes, sent a chill down my spine. It wasn't just that she was tired or had a long day. It was something more, something deeper, something that felt like it was unraveling everything we had built together. I stood up slowly, unsure of what to do next. My mind raced, but nothing made sense. "Sarah, what's going on? Why are you acting like this?" She turned to face me for the first time, her expression distant, unreadable. For a moment, we just stood there, looking at each other, and then she did something I never expected. She turned her back to me, walked into the kitchen, and poured herself a glass of water. The sound of the faucet running was oddly loud in the stillness of the room. "You don't need to worry about it," she said, her voice now quiet, almost dismissive. "I just need some time alone." Time alone. The words hit me like a slap in the face. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words stuck in my throat. What could I say? How could I fight for something when it felt like it was already slipping away? I wanted to push, to demand an explanation, but I stopped myself. Maybe I wasn't ready for the truth. Maybe I was afraid of what it might be. I watched her drink the water, her back still to me, her posture tense. After a moment, she put the glass down on the counter and walked out of the kitchen, heading for the bedroom. That's when I realized she wasn't even tired. She wasn't exhausted from a long day of work. She was avoiding me. She didn't want to be near me. I sat back down on the couch, staring at the door that led to our bedroom. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed, but I didn't know what. All I knew was that I had no idea where we stood anymore. And then, the next morning, everything would change again. It wasn't just the silence. It wasn't just the distance. It was something far worse. The next morning, the house was eerily quiet. The kind of quiet that made my skin crawl. I woke up late, a side effect of the restless night I had spent tossing and turning, trying to make sense of what had happened. I dragged myself out of bed and shuffled into the kitchen, still half-dazed from the lack of sleep. The coffee machine was already brewing, a habit Sarah had taken on in the past month, which I'd found odd at first. She wasn't usually the type to drink coffee first thing in the morning. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, but it didn't bring me the usual comfort. I could hear her moving around in the other room, but I didn't know how to start the conversation. The silence from the night before still hung between us, thick and unspoken. I grabbed a mug, poured myself some coffee, and sat at the table, staring at the clock as it ticked on, knowing she was only a few steps away, but feeling a world apart. She walked in moments later, her hair messy from sleep, her eyes tired, but there was still that same coldness in her gaze, the kind that made me feel like a stranger in my own home. She didn't greet me. She didn't even acknowledge me as she poured herself a cup of coffee. "Good morning," I said, my voice coming out more like a question. She glanced at me briefly but didn't respond. She seemed absorbed in the motion of stirring her coffee, as if I weren't even there. The awkwardness was suffocating. I don't know what's going on, I said after a long pause, my patience wearing thin. Why are you acting like this? Last night, it was like you were a different person. She took a slow sip of her coffee, the steam rising in the morning light. For a second, I thought she might finally open up, but instead, she just sighed and placed her mug down with a soft clink. I told you, James, she said, her voice flat. I need some space. Space. I repeated, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. From me? From us? She didn't answer right away. She stared at the counter, her fingers tracing the edge of the mug. I don't know, okay? I can't do this right now. The words stung more than I expected. Do what? Live together? Be married? She snapped her head up at that, her eyes flashing for the first time since she walked in. No, that's not what I meant, she said quickly, her voice defensive. It's not you. It's me. I blinked. I had heard that line before, but it never felt more hollow than it did in that moment. My heart sank, and I could feel the weight of her words pressing down on me. Then what is it, Sarah? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What's really going on? You've been distant for weeks now. Every time I try to talk to you, you shut me out. I'm not stupid. I can feel it. She stood there for a moment, not saying anything. I was starting to think she might walk away from this conversation entirely, but then she did something that caught me off guard. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table, her expression softer, like she was trying to find the right way to explain something she hadn't been able to articulate before. I don't know how to fix this, she whispered. I leaned forward, my heart racing. Fix what? She exhaled slowly. I don't know who I am anymore, James. And I don't know who we are anymore. Her words felt like a punch. I had always thought we were solid, that we were a team, but now, everything felt like it was crumbling around me. I wanted to reach out to her, to hold her, to tell her that we could fix whatever was broken, but I was frozen in place. How could I fix something when I didn't even know what was wrong? Just as I was about to say something, my phone buzzed on the table, cutting through the tension. I glanced at it, expecting it to be some work-related message, but the name on the screen made my stomach drop. It was a text from Sarah's friend, Elena. I froze. The message was brief, but telling. I'm sorry about last night. It was a mistake. Don't tell James. He doesn't need to know. The words hit me like a ton of bricks, and in that instant, I understood. The silence. The distance. The coldness. It all made sense now. But how deep did this go? I looked up at Sarah, my heart pounding in my chest. Who is this? I asked, my voice trembling. Her eyes widened, a flush creeping up her neck. She reached for my phone, but I pulled it away before she could grab it. I could see the fear in her eyes, the guilt, and the panic, and it was all too much. I stood up quickly, my mind racing, trying to make sense of the situation. What is going on, Sarah? What did you do? The guilt was written all over her face, but she didn't say a word. The silence between us grew, thicker than before, and I could feel my world slipping away, piece by piece. And then, without warning, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving me alone with the truth that had just begun to unfold. The text message burned in my hand, the words etched into my mind. I'm sorry about last night. It was a mistake. Don't tell James. He doesn't need to know. I stared at it for what felt like an eternity, the weight of it crushing me from all sides. Who was Elena, and what did she mean by last night? I glanced back at Sarah, who was now standing in the doorway, her back to me, her shoulders hunched. She hadn't even spoken since I asked her about the text, and the silence between us was suffocating. The woman I had spent the last 3 years with was unraveling before my eyes, and I didn't know how to stop it. My mind was racing. The words in the text, it was a mistake. Did that mean what I thought it meant? Was there something between Sarah and Elena? Or was it something else? Sarah, I said, my voice low, trembling with the fear of what I might hear next. What is this? Who is Elena, and why is she telling me this? She didn't move. Her back remained to me, and I could see her fingers trembling slightly where she gripped the edge of the doorframe. She wasn't ready to face me, but I couldn't just let this hang in the air any longer. I needed answers, no matter how much they hurt. I don't know what you're talking about, she finally said, her voice so quiet that I almost didn't hear it. She sounded so distant, so far removed from the woman I had known. Her words stung, but I knew it was a lie. Sarah, I stepped toward her, my heart pounding harder with each step. You can't lie to me anymore. Something happened. And I need to know what. She turned slowly, her face pale, and her eyes avoided mine. I didn't want this to happen, she whispered. I never wanted you to find out like this. Find out what? I nearly shouted, but I stopped myself, afraid that raising my voice would push her further away. What happened last night, Sarah? For a long moment, she stood there, her eyes brimming with tears she was clearly trying to hold back. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. It was like she was fighting with herself, trying to decide whether she should tell me the truth, the real truth. Then, finally, she spoke. It was a mistake, James. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. Her voice cracked, and I could see how deeply this was affecting her, how ashamed she felt. The words were enough to make my head spin. A mistake? What kind of mistake? She took a deep breath, as though steeling herself for what came next. It was one night, James. Just one night. I never thought it would mean anything. But it did. And now I don't know what to do. My body went numb. One night. My mind struggled to piece it all together. What the hell was she talking about? Who was it? I asked quietly, almost afraid to hear the answer. My voice barely came out. Her face twisted in guilt, and for a moment, she seemed to shrink in on herself. It was someone from work. His name is Greg. I blinked, trying to process the information. Greg? The guy from her office? He'd been to our apartment a few times, always friendly, always the just a colleague kind of guy. But I never suspected anything. How could I have? Why didn't you tell me? I whispered, my heart breaking. Why keep this from me? Her eyes met mine for the first time since the conversation started, and the look in them was one I didn't recognize. It was filled with regret, but also something else. Fear, maybe? I was ashamed. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought if I just ignored it, it would go away. But it didn't. I can't undo it, James. I stood there in stunned silence, the weight of her confession hanging in the air between us. I had no idea what to feel anymore. Anger, betrayal, sadness? I couldn't even tell which emotion was strongest. All I knew was that my entire world had just been shattered. The woman I had trusted most in the world had betrayed me in the worst way possible. The silence grew thick again, but this time, it felt different. It wasn't just the space between us. It was a chasm that had opened up, one that neither of us could cross. I don't know if I can forgive you for this, Sarah. I finally said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. I don't know if we can fix this. She nodded slowly, tears rolling down her cheeks now. I know. I don't expect you to. But I need you to understand. It was a mistake. It's over now. It won't happen again. But I understand if you can't stay with me. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had betrayed me. And now, I was left standing in a home that felt more like a stranger's than mine. As she turned to walk away, I felt something stir inside me, a deep, aching void. I didn't know what the future held, but I did know this. Everything had changed. And the person I was before this moment? He was gone. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, the silence in the room suffocating. Sarah had retreated to the bedroom, her soft footsteps fading as she disappeared behind the closed door. I could still hear her crying, but it didn't bring me comfort. Nothing would. The weight of her confession lingered in the air, thick and heavy. Greg. The name echoed in my mind, and each time I heard it, I felt a little more sick. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the secrecy, the lies, the hidden parts of her life that I never knew existed. I tried to focus on something, anything, to pull myself out of the spiral, but all I could see was her face when she admitted it. The guilt in her eyes. The way she tried to explain away something that felt so unforgivable. I couldn't stand still any longer. I needed to know more. My phone buzzed on the counter, breaking the tense quiet. I grabbed it, hoping for some distraction, some shred of normalcy, but it was a text from Elena, the same name that had appeared in the message Sarah hadn't wanted me to see. My pulse quickened as I clicked it open. James, you need to talk to her. This isn't just about last night. It's about everything. You don't know the half of it. I froze, staring at the words on the screen. What the hell was Elena talking about? What didn't I know? I quickly typed a response. What do you mean? What happened? Tell me everything. I waited, my fingers trembling as I stared at the screen. It took what felt like forever, but then her reply came. I can't say more here. Meet me at the park. In an hour. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my jacket and left the house, my mind racing. I had no idea what I was about to walk into, but I knew it was something I couldn't ignore. Elena knew something important, and I had to find out what it was. As I made my way to the park, the cool night air bit at my skin. I couldn't shake the image of Sarah, her face red from crying, her voice trembling as she told me about Greg. But now, with Elena's cryptic message hanging over me, I had a nagging feeling that the truth wasn't as simple as Sarah had made it seem. There was something more, something darker. I reached the park and spotted Elena sitting on a bench under the flickering streetlight. She looked different tonight, her face serious, her usual playful demeanor replaced by something more guarded. "James," she said softly as I approached. Her eyes flicked nervously around, like she was checking if anyone was nearby. "We shouldn't be talking here." I sat down beside her, heart pounding. "Then tell me what's going on, Elena. Why did you text me? What's really happening with Sarah?" She hesitated for a moment, glancing over her shoulder once more before speaking. "It's not what you think. This isn't just about a mistake with Greg. It's bigger than that." My breath caught. "What do you mean? What do you know?" Elena looked down at her hands, struggling to find the right words. "You need to understand something, James. Sarah's been hiding a lot from you. A lot more than just this affair." I felt my stomach churn. "What are you talking about? What is she hiding?" "Elena," I said, desperation creeping into my voice. "Please, I need to know. This is tearing me apart." She finally met my gaze, her eyes filled with a kind of pity. "You don't know who Sarah really is. She's not the woman you think she is. And it's not just about Greg. She's been lying to you for a long time. More than you'll ever know." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but something inside me told me to stay calm. There was more, much more, and I needed to hear it all. "What do you mean? Not who I think she is?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. Elena sighed, her eyes welling up with tears. "James, Sarah, she's been living a double life. And I'm not just talking about her work. There's more, much more. If you want to understand, you need to look deeper. But be prepared. What you find might destroy you." I felt my pulse race as I struggled to process her words. A double life? What had Sarah been hiding from me? And how far did this go? I didn't know if I was ready for whatever Elena was about to reveal, but I knew one thing for sure. Nothing would ever be the same again. Elena's words hung in the air, heavy with an unspeakable truth. A double life? I repeated, almost to myself. The shock was still settling in, but I could feel the grip of something much worse tightening around me. The idea that Sarah, the woman I had built my life with, was hiding something deeper than just an affair was almost impossible to fathom. Elena looked around nervously, as if she feared someone was listening. "James," she said, lowering her voice, "this isn't easy to say, but you have to know. Sarah, she's been seeing Greg for months. But it's not just that. She's been meeting other people too. People from her past. People you don't know." I couldn't speak for a moment. The words were so foreign, so unreal, that they didn't seem to fit in my mind. My stomach twisted as a cold feeling crept over me. "Other people?" I finally managed, my voice barely a whisper. Elena nodded, her face grave. "Yes. And it's not just a few casual meetings. It's like she's been leading two completely different lives. One with you, where everything looks fine on the outside, and one where she's doing things you wouldn't believe." I felt my breath catch in my throat. "What things? What are you talking about?" Her eyes flicked nervously again. "I can't tell you everything. But you need to understand, James, that Sarah's not who you think she is. She's been involved in things I don't even know how to explain. Things that could ruin everything." I shook my head, trying to grasp what she was saying. "You need to tell me, Elena. I can't keep guessing." She took a deep breath. "I'm telling you this because I care about you. And I know this will hurt, but you deserve the truth." She paused, then looked at me, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Sarah's been meeting with people from her past, old friends, some of whom you've never heard of. But more than that, she's been hiding things about her work. Things that, well, they might involve illegal activity. She's been keeping secrets from you, James, for a long time." The world tilted beneath me. Illegal activity? My heart raced, and my mind tried to process the flood of questions and images flooding in. "What do you mean? What kind of things?" Elena hesitated, glancing over her shoulder. "I don't have all the answers, but I know that Sarah's been making decisions that have put both of you at risk. I don't know if she's involved in something dangerous, but there's a pattern. She's been lying to you, covering her tracks. I could feel the blood draining from my face. My hands started shaking. How long has this been going on? I asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. Months, Elena said quietly. I think longer, but I can't be sure. It started when she got that promotion at work. She changed, and not for the better. I wanted to scream, to demand more, but the words felt like they were trapped in my chest. So all this time, she's been doing what? Living this secret life? What should I do, Elena? What should I even believe anymore? I don't know, she replied softly. I wish I had answers for you. But the only thing I can tell you is this. You need to confront her. You need to ask the hard questions. Because if you don't, I'm afraid you'll never know the full truth. And trust me, James, it's worse than you think. As Elena stood up to leave, I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. The world I knew, the life I had thought was mine, was slipping through my fingers like sand. I had no idea where it was all leading, but I knew one thing for certain. My life, and Sarah's, were about to be torn apart. The next few hours passed in a blur. I could barely focus on anything. Elena's words kept echoing in my mind. Illegal activity, living a double life, things worse than you think. I was pacing around the house, waiting for Sarah to come home, trying to hold myself together. But everything felt like it was falling apart. I barely noticed when the front door creaked open, Sarah's soft footsteps on the floor. She had returned from wherever she'd gone. Probably back to work, or so she'd claimed. I stood still, my heart pounding in my chest. James, she called, her voice cautious, tentative. Are you okay? I couldn't answer her. Instead, I turned, my face a mixture of anger and confusion. Where were you? She froze for a moment, surprised by my tone. Then she shrugged, walking into the living room and setting her bag down. I told you, I had work to do. Why are you acting like this? I could feel the walls closing in around me. Every lie, every moment of distance between us came crashing down. I know, Sarah, I said, my voice trembling. I know everything. She paused, her eyes widening, the color draining from her face. What do you mean, you know everything? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. What's going on? Elena told me, I said, stepping closer to her. She told me about you and Greg, and about everything else. The people you've been hiding, the things you've been doing. Her face went white. For a moment, she just stood there, unable to speak, staring at me as if I'd just punched her in the gut. Then, she took a step back, her hands shaking. James, I can explain. I didn't want you to find out like this. Then how did you expect me to find out? I shot back. By you never telling me? By keeping me in the dark? All this time, you've been lying to me. You've been living a life that I had no idea about. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I never wanted you to get hurt, but it was easier to hide it, to keep it away from you. I felt a surge of anger rise in me, but I swallowed it down. Easier? So all these lies were easier for you. What else are you hiding, Sarah? How deep does this go? She closed her eyes for a long moment, like she was bracing herself for something. When she opened them, there was a look of resignation in her gaze. James, there's more. So much more that you don't know. But I never wanted to drag you into it. I thought I could fix it on my own. I shook my head in disbelief. Fix what, Sarah? What are you even talking about? She took a deep breath and finally spoke, her voice low and strained. I got involved with some people. People from my old life. People who aren't good. I tried to pull away, but they wouldn't let me. And now, I'm stuck. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. You're stuck? You've been involved with them this whole time? And you never thought to tell me? To ask for help? I couldn't, she whispered, tears now streaming down her face. I didn't want to put you in danger. I didn't want to lose you. I thought I could fix everything, but now it's too late. My head was spinning. This wasn't the woman I knew. This wasn't the life I thought we had built. Sarah, what did you get yourself into? Who are these people? What have you done? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked down, her shoulders trembling. The guilt in her eyes was almost too much to bear. I got involved in something dangerous, James. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But I've made deals, done things I'm not proud of. And now they won't leave me alone. My mind raced. You've made deals? With who? I can't tell you. You wouldn't understand. But they know about us, James. And they've threatened to hurt you if I don't do what they want. The world seemed to fall out from under me. I was caught in the middle of something I didn't even understand. Something dangerous. And the woman I loved had been hiding it from me all along. Sarah, I whispered, my voice shaking. Why didn't you come to me? We could have figured this out together. You didn't have to do this alone. I was trying to protect you, she said, her voice cracking. But now I realize I've only made it worse. They're going to come for us, James. And I don't know how to stop it. I felt a chill run through me, the weight of her words sinking in. Everything had changed. The life I thought I knew was gone, replaced by a reality that I wasn't sure I could survive. Is there any way out of this? I asked, barely able to choke the words out. She looked at me, her eyes filled with fear and regret. I don't know, but I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I stood frozen, the weight of Sarah's confession pressing down on me. They're going to come for us. I repeated, my voice barely audible. I couldn't understand. How had everything escalated so quickly? She nodded, tears spilling from her eyes. I never meant for this to happen. It started small, but I got in deeper than I ever thought I would. And now it's too late to walk away. I felt a surge of panic rising within me. Who are these people, Sarah? What do they want from you? She hesitated, her eyes darting nervously around the room as if she were expecting someone to appear at any moment. I can't tell you everything. You won't understand. But they've got their hands on things they know about me. They'll use it against us if I don't do what they want. My mind was racing, each thought competing for attention. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Sarah, the woman I loved, was tangled in something so dark, so dangerous. And I had no idea how to get us out of it. Why didn't you come to me, Sarah? I asked, my voice shaking with frustration. We could have faced this together. You didn't have to protect me by keeping all this from me. She shook her head, her face crumpling with guilt. I thought I could handle it. I didn't want you to get involved. I thought if I just kept my distance, kept things quiet, it would go away. Obviously, that didn't work. I snapped, the anger I'd been holding back finally breaking free. Now we're both in this mess. I'm not just going to sit here while you try to fix this on your own. I could see the fear in her eyes. I didn't want this for us, she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. I just didn't know how to get out of it. And now, I don't know if we can. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. We'll figure this out, Sarah. I'm not going anywhere. But we need to face this head on. We need to know who we're dealing with. She nodded slowly, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. The damage had already been done, and we were both caught in a web that neither of us knew how to untangle. Do you trust me? I asked quietly, watching her closely. She looked at me, her eyes filled with uncertainty, but after a long pause, she nodded. I do, but I don't know if I can protect you from them. I grabbed her hands, feeling the coldness of her skin. I don't care who they are, Sarah. I'll protect you. We'll get through this. But you need to tell me everything. No more secrets. The silence between us was thick, but there was something in her eyes that told me she wasn't ready to open up fully. I knew there was more she wasn't saying, but I didn't push her. Not yet. Just as I was about to speak, a loud knock echoed from the front door. My heart skipped a beat. Who could that be at this hour? We both froze. Sarah's face drained of color, and she looked at me, panic in her eyes. They've found us, she whispered. I grabbed her by the wrist, pulling her toward the back door. We need to leave. Now. But before we could move, the door burst open with a force that made the walls tremble. And standing in the doorway was a figure I never expected to see. I couldn't breathe. The door swung open, and there, standing in the doorway, was Greg. My heart sank, and I could feel Sarah's grip tighten on my arm. She looked terrified, her face pale as she backed away slowly, like she was about to flee. But I couldn't let her. Not again. What are you doing here, Greg? I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady, though I could feel the tension rippling through me. Greg's eyes flickered from me to Sarah, and then he took a deep breath, his expression shifting from one of cold calculation to something softer. I came to talk, he said quietly. I didn't want this to get any worse. I looked at him, confused. Talk? After everything? Sarah stepped in front of me, her eyes wide with disbelief. Talk? After everything you've done? You've been lying to me, keeping secrets from me, and now you want to talk? Greg ran a hand through his hair, looking suddenly weary. I know. I messed up, and I'm sorry. I've been part of this mess too. But I don't want to be anymore. I don't want to hurt anyone. I never should have gotten involved in the first place. I took a step forward, still unsure of where this was headed. What do you mean? You've been involved in some shady stuff with Sarah. Now you're just backing out? Greg glanced at Sarah, his eyes full of regret. I'm not backing out, but I know I've done a lot of damage, and I want to help fix it, if you'll let me. Sarah's eyes filled with confusion, but there was something else in them, a flicker of hope, as if, after all this time, she might finally see a way out. Help us? How? Greg stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. I've been working for the wrong people, Sarah, and I know now that I made a huge mistake. But there's a way out of this. We can take them down. Together. If we work together, we can make sure you're safe. I could feel Sarah's tension melt just a little. You really think we can get out of this? Greg nodded. I've been trying to get out for months, Sarah. I can't promise it'll be easy, but I can help you. Help both of you. I looked at Sarah, still uncertain, but seeing a flicker of relief in her eyes. The weight of everything we'd been through seemed to be lifting, just a little. I don't know what to say, Sarah said softly. I never thought this was possible. Greg took a deep breath. All I can do is offer the truth. The people I was working with, they won't stop until they get what they want. But I know how to take them down. I can help you get out of this, Sarah. Both of you. I glanced at Sarah, her eyes wide with hesitation, but she looked at me and nodded, just barely, as if she had finally found the courage to believe in something better. We'll do it, I said, feeling a sudden clarity in my chest. We'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Together. Greg smiled, the weight of years of secrets starting to lift from his shoulders. Good, because it's not over yet. But we can fight back. We can take back control. And for the first time in months, I felt like we had a chance. It wasn't going to be easy. It wasn't going to be quick. But we had each other. And that was enough to start over. As the three of us sat down together, the future felt uncertain, but not hopeless. We still had a long road ahead of us. But for the first time, it felt like the weight was no longer just on Sarah's shoulders, or mine. Together, we could rebuild. And this time, we would do it right.